To the Town of Auburn Civil War Remembrance event, and if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It is an honor today to have our distinguished local, state, and federal officials participating today, some of whom will be speaking to you shortly. Before they do, I just want to introduce all the elected officials who are here. Congressman McGovern, Representative Frost, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen Doreen Goodrich, who's here representing State Senator Michael Moore, Selectman Bob Grossman, Selectman Denise Brotherton, and Selectman Ken Holstrom. And not here today, but also a selectman that I want to recognize is Selectman Steve Simone. We are thrilled to hold this event in collaboration with the Auburn School Department. So I would also like to thank School Superintendent Dr. Mary Ellen Brunel for her support. I also want to acknowledge and thank the Chester P. Tuttle Post Color Guard for participating today. They're off to the left of the monument. And I want to acknowledge and thank the Vietnam Veterans Association Chapter 554 from Auburn, who are to the right. I also want to recognize the Auburn Veterans Advisory Committee, some of whom are here today, and the town's Veterans Agent, Larry Corbin, who's in the Veterans Association beside me. Most importantly, I'd like all of you to please join me in a round of applause to thank all of the veterans of Auburn for their service to this country and for the sacrifices they and their families have made. I also want to welcome those members of the Parks, Recreation, and Cemetery Committee, the Historic Commission, and the Auburn Historic Society, some of whom are here today in period costume, and we thank you for your participation. We also want to welcome and thank the Auburn Middle School Band. You did a great job, and they'll be playing a couple of selections from the Civil War area that they learned. And we welcome members of the Auburn Middle School 7th grade class who join us today because they're studying the Civil War. So this is a great real-life lesson on local history as well as how it ties in with the Civil War. Today's program will include remarks from our elected officials and the school superintendent, followed by a presentation from Guy Morin, a Civil War interpreter, and stories about Auburn residents who participated in the Civil War presented by local historian Ken here. Finally, we will have a moment of silence for those veterans of the Civil War and lay a wreath at the base of the monument to honor their memory and their sacrifices. The wreath laying will be followed by the Auburn Middle School Band playing God Bless America. Today we're here to honor those Auburn residents who fought and many died in the Civil War. This is the Soldiers Monument behind me. It's dedicated to those Auburn residents who fought in the Civil War. The town of Auburn was fortunate to receive a grant from the Massachusetts Department of Veterans Services and the Massachusetts Sesquicentennial Commission to restore this monument and preserve its integrity so that future generations can pay tribute to our fallen heroes. Specifically, the town of Auburn received a grant in the amount of $5,000 to restore and refurbish this beautiful monument. We've also able to use the funds to restore other gravestones in town, including those that are located at the old Baptist burying ground, now called the West Burial Ground, on Waterman Road. The grant has also been used to replace 20 time-worn Civil War flag holders that you'll see holding up various flags around the Civil War monument. So we thank the Massachusetts Department of Veterans Services and the Secretary Colin Nee for their support and efforts in preserving the history of the Civil War. And we thank our town meeting members for voting to approve the $5,000 in matching funds to make this all happen. Before introducing our first speaker, the Auburn Middle School Band will be playing Echoes of the Civil War. my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Congressman Jim McGovern, a staunch advocate for and a very good friend for Auburn. Please join me in welcoming Congressman McGovern. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank Town Manager Julie Jacobson for her incredible leadership here in Auburn and for welcoming me here today. I want to thank our veterans who are here today. We all should thank them every chance we get, because it's because of them that we live in a country that is the freest country in the world. And I'm grateful to my colleagues in government who are here today, and to the superintendent of schools, and to all the teachers and faculty at Auburn Middle School. You are very, very lucky that you live in this great town with some of the best schools anywhere, not only in Massachusetts, but in the country. And it's something you should never take for granted. I'm very happy to be with all of you today on this very important occasion. I loved history when I was in middle school. I majored in history when I was in college. You are going to get a little bit of a history lesson a little later from Mr. Eath here. But I enjoyed history because I thought it was important to know about the past. I thought it was important to appreciate how we ended up where we are right now. And I think if you understand the past, it's a better guide for the future. So you don't make the same mistakes, or then maybe you repeat what worked. So history is very, very important to me. And this is, I think, bringing history alive, coming here at this site and having this ceremony. Now, you're all, I think most of you are all in 7th grade, am I right? Yeah. And so that means most of you are around 13 years old? Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. So, I don't know if you know this, but there were 127 Northern soldiers recorded as being 13 years old when they entered the Civil War. And another 330 were 14, and most of them were volunteers. And those are just what was recorded. I'm sure there were many, many more people your age who were involved in that war. Can you imagine volunteering to go to war at your age? I have teenage children. I can't possibly imagine it. I bring this up not because I want to encourage you to go to war, but because I want to point out that people of your age, even now, can fight for what you believe in. As you're learning in your classrooms, the Civil War had its origin in the debate over slavery and the Union States' effort to eradicate it. Union soldiers fought for many reasons, but history tells us that many fought for the principle that slavery was wrong. And as we remember the sacrifices of our Civil War heroes, who fought even at a very young age to end an evil in our society, also remember that each of us has that same obligation today, no matter what your age. So I encourage you to find something in your life that you are passionate about, and to go out there and work for that cause. Whether it is to end something that you believe is wrong, or to support something that you believe is right. You are old enough to figure out what you believe in. Find your passion and go out and fight for it. Maybe 150 years from now, people will be remembering your work just as we are remembering the 15 Auburn residents who gave their lives for the freedom of others. And even if there is no monument built for what you believe in, or what you have stood for, or what you have fought for, if you work toward making the goal of making the world better, you will have made a difference in your community and in your country. I used to have a history professor when I was in middle school who always used to say, remember this, the world will not get better on its own. And it took me a while to appreciate the meaning behind those words. But what he was talking about is that nothing good happens. You know, no problems are solved unless like-minded people come together and stand up for what they believe in. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for arranging this remembrance today. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. It's always a pleasure to have you here in Auburn. Next, please welcome Doreen Goodrich, who is speaking here today on behalf of State Senator Michael Moore, and I also want to point out that she is chairman of the Auburn Board of Selectmen.
Good afternoon and thank you. As stated, I work for Senator Moore. I'm Director of Constituent Services, and I'm here today to speak on his behalf. Senator Moore sends his regrets he could not be here today, but also sends his best regards and wishes. The Commonwealth has had tremendous impact in the building of this great nation. Throughout U.S. history, especially during the Civil War, Massachusetts residents from across the state, including many from Auburn, quickly answered the call to action to preserve our liberties and the way of life. As we celebrate 150th anniversary of the Civil War, it is our responsibility to work together to preserve the historical monuments, memorials, and other historic sites to remember these brave men and women and to honor their sacrifice. Senator Moore applauds the Town of Auburn for its efforts in continuing to ensure the town's rich history is not forgotten. As it was stated last year, the Massachusetts Civil War Sesquicentennial Commission awarded Auburn $5,000 to restore and refurbish the Civil War monument here at Hillside Cemetery, which honors 14 Auburn residents who served in the Civil War, and the gravestone of Mr. Richard Boardman Jennison, who died at Fort Sumter in 1864. As we gather here today, let's pay our respects and remember the lives of the Auburn residents who served to defend our nation and during the Civil War, and who ensure the freedoms we enjoy today. Let's make sure their stories and memories continue to be told by future generations for another 150 years and beyond. Thank you for letting me speak, and God bless this wonderful country we live in.
Thank you, Doreen. Before we go to our next speaker, I also just want to recognize and thank Principal Joe Gagnon for being here today and for letting us bring your students here today, and to all the teachers that are here, and promise you that at the end of the program you'll all have an opportunity to come up and look at the monument. You wouldn't believe it, we could show you pictures of this monument prior to it being refurbished, and it's really stunning, the work that was done to it. And we want to give you the opportunity to actually come up and see some of the names and some of the other gravestones. So now I want to turn to our next speaker. Please welcome with us today State Representative Paul Frost.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Town of Auburn, to all the 7th grade students that have come out here today, my fellow elected officials, to come together with the veterans of our community to celebrate, to recognize, and to honor those from Auburn, those throughout Massachusetts, and throughout our country who served and fought to preserve our union, to end slavery during the Civil War. It was a shame that our forefathers, when they drafted the Declaration of Independence and our United States Constitution, couldn't come together to recognize that slavery was a barbaric and evil thing. And that could have avoided the Civil War. Unfortunately, they could not. And so many years later, the Civil War had to be fought to preserve our union, to protect our country, and to end slavery. As mentioned, there were folks from Auburn who went and served. Massachusetts had the first black regiment that served in battle, that went to the Civil War. So the history of our state and the history of our community is tied to this very conflict that, had it gone another way, we would not be the great nation we are today. People stood up in our country under President Abraham Lincoln, decided to make a stand that the Union must stay together and it should not be fractured and fall apart based on slavery. We must be thankful for that. Because our forefathers once said, all men are created equal. But it wasn't truly so. And that Civil War helped make that possible. So I want to thank everybody for gathering today. I want to thank all our veterans, those who have served in the Civil War and throughout. who have kept our country great, who have made a great life for all of you to enjoy all the freedoms that we all have, because there's a lot of other countries that don't have it. Look at Ukraine. Look what's happening there. You could be a child there. So be thankful to the men and women of our uniform who serve us today and those who have served us in the past. God bless the town of Auburn, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you for all that you do for the town of Auburn. Next, please welcome Selectman Bob Grossman, who is the Vice Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Like the fourth or fifth person. Most of what I was going to say has already been said. One, we need to thank the veterans that are here today and the veterans past. I'd like to thank the middle school band. They did an excellent job. The seventh graders, hope you get a chance to come up and see the monument and the great restoration that was done with matching funds by the town of Auburn to the sum of $10,000. And you actually better be paying attention, because there'll be a test next week. As far as the monument, the restoration, it was voted on by Congress voted on to award the monies to the state. The state distributed the monies to the towns, and Auburn took the bull by the horns and decided to clear the monument for 100% site for names that are on the 15 names that are on the monument. Again, I want to thank all the veterans that are here and those in the past, and God bless America.
Thank you, Selectman Grossman. Next, we have School Superintendent Dr. Mary Ellen Brunel, who most of you know. Welcome, Mary Ellen.
Good afternoon, everyone. As our other speakers have, I want to start by thanking our veterans, those that are here today, as well as those who could not be. It is because of their heroics and their sacrifice that we enjoy the freedoms that we do in America that characterize this great nation. As a society, it is incumbent upon us to learn from the lessons of our past, both those of which we are proud and those perhaps that we wish that we could redo. Building on what Congressman McGovern said, there will be always times in our life when we'll need to make a decision about what we will do, what our actions will be. I would encourage all of us to remember that the time is always right to do the right thing. I'd like to thank Town Manager Jacobson as well as her entire team. I'm looking so forward to hearing from Mr. Ethier, who I always learn a tremendous amount from. I'm proud of our students for being here today. The band sounds wonderful. Thank you for your work. And thank you for the collaborative efforts. We're very fortunate in Auburn to have such a unique collaborative working relationship. So I thank all of you for including us and look forward to what we're about to learn. Thank you.
Before the middle school band plays, I just want to make sure that we thank all of the department heads, Assistant Town Manager Ed Kazanovich, DPW Director Bill Coyle, our police chief, our fire chief, the firefighters who are here with us today, and the DPW workers, and a special thanks to Superintendent Wayne Bloomquist. He did a lot of work to get today's event ready for you, so thank you all. And now the middle school band is going to be playing another selection for us, I believe the Battle Hymn of the Republic. also, I just want to make note, if the students want to, sit on the ground, it should be dry. We haven't had rain for a little bit, and you're welcome to sit down, especially if you want to listen to our next presenter, who's going to be fascinating. I want you to be comfortable. We want you to understand the live history lesson that you're about to receive. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Guy Morin, who is a well-known Civil War reenactor and interpreter. Guy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Got to adjust my spectacles. 150 years ago, this nation was divided north against south in a great, horrible civil war. When the call went out in 1861 for volunteers, small towns, large cities, individuals responded to that request. The town of Auburn was no different. In 1861, the U.S. descended into a state of war, not with a foreign enemy, but with itself in a great and bloody civil war. Some 3 million men would answer the call to arms to defend the Union. From these towns and cities, they responded, enlisting to serve in the Army and Navy. Some 97 were accredited as having served from Auburn during the war. Some traveled to Boston to join the Navy or enlisted Army units training at military posts in and around the city. For the majority, the journey to war began closer to home at one of 2 training camps established in Worcester. Camp Scott, renamed Camp Wool, was located at the former Brooks Farm. Today, this site is located off Cambridge Street, running from the rail line through the small park and through the residential and industrial areas to the cemetery that borders the neighborhood. Camp Street is one small vestige of that site that remains. Here, the 15th, 34th, 36th, 51st, and 57th Regiments trained and prepared for war. At the site of Elm Park and the residential neighborhood running between Highland and Pleasant Streets was the agricultural fairground, which became Camp Lincoln, and the training site for the 21st and 25th Regiments. As the men shipped off to war, they may have gotten one last quick look at the familiar site of Auburn as they passed through town on the railroad to take them south to Groton and New London, Connecticut, to the steamers that would take them south to their destiny. The very railroad that today passes through Central Square and behind this very site. For 4 years, the Union and Confederate armies clashed in an effort to determine once and for all if this nation would perish from the earth. When the guns fell silent in April of 1865, the terrible cost of that war became all too apparent. Some 640,000 men lay dead. The war had cost so much it affected virtually every community, and Auburn was no different. For the 97 men who went off to war, not all were fortunate enough to return. At least 12 perished during the war, and another 3 immediately after. The fortunate ones that did return quickly to reestablish their lives at home. They organized a local Grand Army of the Republic post and set about their efforts to remember their fellow comrade-at-arms from this town. Memorial Day was established as an outgrowth of Decoration Day, which was the day set aside to decorate graves of the fallen from the recent war. By 1870, they had raised the funds to erect a simple white stone monument inscribed with the names of their fallen friends. It was placed here as a reminder of the sacrifices made for the generations yet unborn, the defense of the Union, and the preservation of a united States. Let's take a few minutes and remember the names of those who sacrificed their lives for us, carved in stone. These 15 men died in the defense of their country. Marcus Lovering, 22, shoemaker, served with the 21st Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, killed in action in Chantilly, Virginia, September 1st, 1862. Leander Owen, 28, 15th Massachusetts Infantry, killed in action Antietam, Maryland, September 17th, 1862. George F. Newton, 18, farmer, 15th Massachusetts Infantry, killed in action Yorktown, Virginia, June 10, 1862. George Williams, 23, 15th Massachusetts, killed in action, Spotsylvania, May 13, 1864. Joseph Delaney, 33, 25th Massachusetts Infantry, killed in action, Petersburg, June 18, 1864. Not all died in battle. Some succumbed to disease in an era when medicine was primitive at best. George Rice, 20, farmer, 51st Massachusetts Volunteer Militia, died of disease March 9, 1863, New Bern, North Carolina. Rhodes Stafford, 34, shoemaker, 4th Massachusetts Cavalry, died in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, October 21st, 1864. Tragically, some died at the hands of their captors in the unspeakable horrors of southern prison camps. Starvation and disease took these men. R. Boardman Jennison, 20, farmer. 36 Massachusetts volunteers died in Andersonville Prison, May 10, 1864. William Hart, 23, yeoman, 15th Massachusetts, died in Anderson Prison, September 6, 1864. John Bean, 18, farmer, 37th Massachusetts, POW, Danville, Virginia, December 29, 1864. Jerome Johnson, 18, farmer, 25th Massachusetts, POW, Florence, South Carolina, February 23rd, 1865. And tragically, some men died from accidents, as did James Dooligan, 20, operative. 36th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, died of wounds accidentally shot April 30th, 1865, City Point, Virginia. In addition, 3 other names appear on this monument for men who apparently have died as a consequence of wounds or illness after the war had ended. Henry Newton, E. Davis Stowell, and William Howard Legg. Remember these men and the many who did not return. Those who did and went on to live out their lives here in Auburn brought home with them their memories and their skills, and put together in the years afterwards memories and remembrances of those left behind. Take a few moments to walk among the headstones and silently reflect on the contribution these men made to our lives. Seek out the small American flags held in place by a star-shaped bronze marker. Green and weathered, they are inscribed with the words Veteran, 61 to 65. A few also have the rusted marker of GAR Post 10, a reminder of the post-war association they enjoy. Take a moment to visit and look at these graves. The last veterans from town died almost 90 years ago. But as long as this monument stands and we continue to honor these men, their efforts to preserve the Union and protect the idea of the United States will always be remembered. Thank you, and God bless America.
Thank you. Our final speaker today is local historian and resident Ken Ethier. Ken?
Hi, as I was sitting there, I was wondering what I should actually try to tell you about. The worst possible thing that could happen to anybody would be probably speaking about the Civil War after Guy Moore, and he's incredible. I've been to many lectures he's done on not only Civil War, but other wars. So I'm going to tell you something a little bit different than something that I know probably more about. This GAR monument, I would like to tell you a little bit about this. Julie and I came up here, I don't know how many months ago, one evening, and looked it all over and realized that it did need a lot of work, and she told me that there was a grant available, and gave the job to Wayne Bloomquist, the fellow down in the Civil War outfit down here. Also, I wanted to tell you that Guy, Wayne, and myself also went to the same school that you're going to now. But Wayne actually did something very special. Not only did he make it look pretty, he went under all the guidelines of the Association of Gravestone Studies in Greenfield. So it would not do anything to make it age faster and more or less preserve it. The other thing I would like to tell you a little bit about probably is what the Civil War soldiers had when they were your age, what the town was like. There were a lot of new and exciting things in the town. 1839 would have brought the 2 railroads through the town. A railroad then would probably only go 15 miles an hour, but it was still a lot faster way than to travel with a horse. 1839 would also bring the 2 mills in town. Stoneville Manufacturing Company, which was on Main Street, which is a dead-end road. I don't even know if all of you would know where it is. It's off of Auburn Street. You would have lived in there. Also there was Bonneville Mill that was directly behind if we went to the back of the cemetery here, you would be over in what was their area. But if your family worked at one of these two textile mills, you would have lived on the property, you would have lived in the mill housing, you would have had to carry water. The mill over on Main Street, one of the perks for the managers was their house was closer to the well. You would have to carry every time your mother wanted to cook or bathe your little brother or sister, you'd have to carry that water. It was just a whole different life than you can possibly understand today, I think. You would probably never leave that village because you had everything you needed right there. The girls that came from the farms to work on there would have been supervised by an older woman. They would have worked 6 days a week, maybe 12 hours a day. And they would have actually lived in the boarding house that still stands today right on the corner of Main Street and Auburn Street. Auburn's very unique to have that boarding house still there. If you were a young man on the farm, you would have had all kinds of chores. You would have had to cut ice on the ponds in the winter, cut hay to feed your animals. You would have been a teamster plowing the garden with either oxen or horses. You would really have worked very, very hard. You probably only went to school until you were 15 years old. You would have gone to a one-room schoolhouse where the children in the first grade would be in the same room with the older kids, the 15, maybe somebody went beyond 15, but 15 was about the age usually that you would have finished school. You probably wouldn't have worn shoes in the summer. You would have walked around town on dirt roads. It's such a different life than you could imagine today. The older boys would have had to get to school a little bit early in the morning because they'd have to start the fire in the wood stove to heat the building. And once the building was up to full heat, it was probably 30 degrees warmer than the outside, just as your house would have been. So if it was 0 out, the schoolroom or your house would have been 30 degrees. You could actually leave a drink in the back part of the room, and when you were back for it, it would probably be frozen. It was just a whole different life. With this, I could go on, but I know we're kind of short on time. And what we're going to try to do, if you have the time, is bring you up here and show you some of the GAR markers on the graves. The town was able to buy some replicas of the markers for the missing ones in the town, so we'll be correcting those for the people that didn't have a marker. I thank you very much for listening.
Now, this is what we'd like to do. To close up our program, we're going to have a wreath-laying ceremony. And I want to just mention that after that, both Kenny here and Guy Morin are more than happy to talk to the students, show you some of the grave sites that are up here, explain some of the things about the monument, explain about the uniforms, what they would like to wear these wool uniforms on a hot, hot day, and answer any of your questions. But what we'd like to do now is have a wreath laying. We'd like to have a moment of silence for the soldiers of the Civil War. So I'd like to invite everyone to come up. Maybe have the band, if you can come up, that's fine. I know you're going to follow it by playing God Bless America. If you need to remain seated, that's fine. But if all the students could come up and join all the officials, if our veterans could come over as well as the color guard, we'd like to gather around the monument so you can see it. And we're going to lay the wreath. Would just bow their heads for a moment of silence in memory of those who fought in the Civil War. Thank you. Now we'd like to lay the wreath. Perfect. Thank you. Now I believe the band is going to play God Bless America. All the students can stay up here and then you can see the monuments when we're done. participating. Come on up here and you can take a walk around with Mr. Ethier and Mr. Moran and they can show you some of the other grave sites. Thank you, everybody, for attending.